And welcome into the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. My name is Chris Pelican, joined by Tiger Hall of Famer Kareem Rush. Your Tigers lose today by a final of 78-70 down in Baton Rouge to LSU. They fall to 3-2 in conference play, 13-5 on the season. Folks, as always, this is your show as much as it is ours. So jump in, do like our friend Samuel Howe's doing, and jump into the comments section on the YouTube chat down there and let us know what you thought of today's 78-70 loss to the LSU Tigers. Again, Tigers fall to 3-2 in conference play with this one. Kareem, I don't know. I mean, a lot to chew on this one for sure. Seemingly, what strikes me is the fact that they went almost 6 minutes without scoring to start the game. I don't think you can do that and realistically expect to do well in any game ever. And then, the other stats that stand out to me, they were Mizzou Tigers outscored by 12 on second chance points. It felt like every time the team needed to get a rebound, LSU got the offensive board and then capitalized on that. So your thoughts on a tough loss down in Baton Rouge, LSU getting their first SEC win of the year. They improved to 1-4.
Yeah, I mean, we again, go through our offensive lulls that we tend to have from time to time, especially with Mark being in foul trouble. And it was a pretty slow first half, for them to go in with a 10-point lead. I think that was just kind of the name of the game, that first half that we struggled offensively. I think second half we played, a lot better. Obviously Stone, who's kind of shown up as kind of being our second guy that we need, played well. But all in all, like I said, we could have played better. Like I said, the rebounding thing is still an issue. Like I said, we have size and somehow just don't get what we need. I think a lot of that is the zone, so long rebounds and all that stuff. But that comes down to heart and going after. You need a key rebound. But a tough loss. LSU was 0-4. They're back at home. They needed a win. Coming off the tough loss against Kentucky, so those guys were really motivated. Sutton had a great game. The guy, the guard had 20 points. So a few of the guys stepped up, hit some big shots at the end. And it's tough to win in SEC. So, we could have played better, obviously, but, we had a chance to win this game too.
It's an interesting thing because, you're playing road games in the SEC. It's very rare that those are going to be lopsided wins for you. Right. Yeah. I mean, and in these close games, these late and close games, I mean, it seems to me that the statistics that stand out are free throw shooting, rebounding in these tight. And I mean, boy, I think that we're talking about the two biggest Achilles heels of this team this year. So it's something that doesn't bode well, again, and Kareem, like, it's funny because, man, like you and I mean, for obvious reasons, after the Illinois game, had our reservations about whether this team was this was just going to be a play out the string year, another potential, 0-win SEC season. And let's give Dennis Gates credit. I mean, he got this team to come back and beat three really good teams so far in SEC conference play. But, the habits that get you a 40-point loss to Illinois and a blowout loss against Kansas, like those things they're not gone. Right. And we see them rear their head, unfortunately. And again, once again, I want to get a little bit of positives because, again, this thing
we're playing better. Now we have full strength. Pierce is kind of finding his way, getting comfortable. He's been amazing, being an outside threat. And I think that's really opened up everything. Like I said, you mentioned it's going to be hard to win in SEC. These going to go down to one or two plays to be made at the end. And I think having someone other than Mark that we can go to knock down a big bucket, especially if it's not driving, it's an outside shot where people are not really, focusing on Cruz because Cruz ain't shot the ball well in SEC play. So we've had other guys step up, so I hope that he's still shooting 48% from three. So he'll get back into his groove. Now we got three, legitimate outside threats. It's going to open up things for Mark. But again, free throws and rebound, like Samuel Howell just said, that's something that Dennis probably is going to stress about that we need to, find a way to figure out. But we shot 80% from the line today, that wasn't it. It was really coming down to a couple plays. That guy hit that running, floater in the lane. If that would have missed, we came down and hit a shot, this game could have been a lot different. So we were like one or two plays out for, getting a win. But again, we played well in the second half.
Well, and I'll definitely do a mea culpa. Like early in the season when Pierce was out, when Stone got hurt, the truth is I wasn't sure that those guys were impact guys. Yeah. I wasn't sure that those guys that missing them was, so when we were seeing them struggle, I'm sitting there thinking, fine, you got some complimentary guys. It is very, very clear that Jaden Stone and Trent Pierce have to play major roles with this team. Jaden Stone was really, really well. Pierce helped to bring the team back after a really, really slow start. Didn't do a ton in the second half. Stone was consistently, an important offensive piece. So, you and I, again, this never-ending quest to find the right rotation for this team. It is really, really apparent Trent Pierce and Jaden Stone have to be, out on the floor a lot more. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, for the first time, I didn't think I'd say this, but I mean, Jacob Cruz, you mentioned he hasn't shot it well, but and here's the funny thing about Cruz. If we're looking at the stat line today, 3 points in 29 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Kareem, for certain guys, 3 points in 29 minutes isn't a big deal because you know what? They do everything else really well. They defend, they rebound, they do all the things that maybe don't appear on a stat sheet. Jacob Cruz does none of those things very well. Jacob Cruz is a shooter, plain and simple. So 3 in 29 minutes, that's not going to fly.
I agree. I mean, but we expect him to play well. He's been playing well all year long. Like the last 4 games, you have up and down moments as a shooter. So all we need from him is to continuously shoot those. So the defense has to play out there and it opens things up. So I'm not too worried about him now. If this goes into 7, 8 games where he's struggling, then there's a problem. But I'm sure Dennis can kind of make adjustments based on that. And again, Pierce is playing well, so those minutes can be moved over to him. He can get more of those looks. And again, Jaden is really kind of showcasing that he's our offensive threat outside of Mark. They on the perimeter, they can get downhill, they can knock down tough shots, they can catch and shoot. I've been really impressed with him coming back. So, I think those guys are going to only continue to get better and better. And that rotation is going to solidify. We're not seeing much of Mac anymore. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of TL. TL provides that toughness. I was kind of figuring out what can he do well, but these last 4 games, he's shown, that toughness, that competitiveness that we're going to need from the point, especially getting Rob off the ball. And again, I think Rob needs to step up and play a little better as well.
He did not play a good one, and I think you're making excuses for a fellow shooter in Cruz there. I don't know how many times Kareem Rush put up 3 points in 29 minutes.
I have more responsibility. I might go, 1 for 16. It'll be something like that.
I doubt there's many of those on your ledger, my friend. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. It is brought to you in part by the Legal Buddy app. Life happens fast. 1 minute you're driving home, the next flashing lights are in the rear view. I got an expired tag ticket the other day. Needed Legal Buddy for that. When trouble knocks, answer with confidence. With the Legal Buddy app, you can connect to a local attorney in seconds, whether it's a DWI, car accident, criminal charge, or traffic ticket. Download the Legal Buddy app today at legalbuddyapp.com. Register and use the code LEGAL to enter for a chance to win a $250 Amazon gift card. Always on your side. That is the Legal Buddy app. Tigers lose by a final of 78-70 today to LSU, giving the LSU Tigers their first SEC win of the year. 1-4 in conference play now. Mizzou falls to 3-2 on the season, falling out of first place. And it's funny, Kareem, this doesn't change, but obviously it's tough to win on the road in the SEC. The first 3 games of the day, though, today, road teams go and win in the SEC. So, it's certainly not impossible. But, and this is the question that I have for you is this. This is not a young team in Mizzou. This is, in fact, one of the older teams in the country. Jaden Stone is 25 years old, believe it or not. But the consistency, and maybe it's not always the same, but it feels like older teams should be more consistent. We shouldn't see efforts like we got from Anthony Robinson today. Mark's foul trouble, if you go back and look at about 3 of those first 4 fouls, they were, I didn't like the officiating one bit today. It certainly didn't cost him the game, but boy, there were ticky-tack fouls all over the place. My question to you is this. What can Dennis Gates do to get his team to put out a more consistent effort? Because again, this wasn't a good one today. And they let the chance to get a good SEC road win slip away because they just weren't themselves today.
I mean, like I said, I think a lot of it was we got to give some credit to the LSU as well. And they need to get a win, especially after Kentucky being 0-4. So, and most guys play better when they're at home, so Sutton had a great game. The other guy had 20. So like it came down to, like I said, a few key plays that we didn't make. And I think if Mark would have been in foul trouble, and I agree, some of those were ticky-tack, but that happens on the road. They want to get the player out. They want to see a win. So you expect those things like that. But that's when guys need to step up and, have, better hats, which, Stone did. So, and again, I'm not discouraged by how we played. I think we played well in the second half. There's obviously things that we can do better. But again, I think if 1 or 2 plays would have went a different way, this could have been a win for us.
Let's talk about the point guard play a little bit. You liked Barrett today, and I'm never gonna. T.O. Barrett is about as tough of a guy as they come. He is certainly not afraid to go in amongst the big guys. Tries to take those tough shots. He's got moxie that he clearly, the team likes him. He's sort of, he's just a natural point guard. I get that. But boy, I mean, he almost had 30 minutes today. Yeah. 4 turnovers, which again, Anthony Robinson had 4 turnovers as well. My question to you is this: Do we need to start seeing Jaden Stone play more point? I mean, the turnover situation, today it was a 13-8 differential, and we're sitting here and we're talking about what are the things that made the difference in this game. And when you talk about a +5 turnover differential, you talk about I believe it was a +6 offensive rebounding, and then the killer stat of all of them, LSU with a +12 on second chance points. I'm interested to know what you think. I mean, I struggle to think that T.O. Barrett playing 30 minutes is a good thing. I don't know. Your thoughts on sort of the point guard situation overall?
I mean, we got what we have. We got to go between Ant Rob and T.O. I don't think Stone on the point is what we need, because we need him to be offensive minded, and that keeps him from coming up down screens and utilizing what his primary skill set is, which is spreading the floor. So I don't like him at point. We got to stick with and have more confidence in what Ant Rob and T.O. brings. I wish T.O. would shoot a little more, comfortably from the outside, but I've come to accept this is his game, and try to look at other things that he does well. But again, I think that toughness is something that we do need. He plays great defensively. And like I said, between those two guys defensively, I think we're pretty set point, from the points standpoint. But again, they can be better, but I think as Trent and Stone settle into their new roles as being the offensive threats, then our point guard play get better, because right now we do rely on Ant Rob to score a little bit. That I was hoping that he would bring, but now it looks like he's going to be maybe the third or fourth option, offensively for us.
Talk a little. This is like a little inside basketball here, and I'm sure this is things that your coaches over the span of your career have talked about. It is evident that when Mizzou drops into their zone, a lot of times, I mean, unless you're playing Illinois with some really, really good passing bigs or that sort of thing, the zone is very effective. I don't think there's any doubt about it. But boy, does it kill them rebounding wise. Where is the balance? What are the things the team can do better to avoid those second chance points by the opposition when they fall into the zone? Because obviously the zone has created difficult shots for the opponent. That's obviously the goal of any defensive set. But for a team that is not short or small by any stretch of the imagination, the rebounding discrepancies are a problem.
It really is.
Where do you find the in-between on that?
I mean, we do play a lot of zone, so I expect a lot of rebounds, and that comes down to our guard play and those guys being more aggressive and going and snagging those rebounds. We are tall, so it does baffle me that we don't, that we struggle so, on the defensive end sometimes, rebounding. But again, Burns is not. He's thin. Mark is 6'9". He's the really one who goes after rebounds. Sean does a little bit. He plays 20 minutes, so we need guys that are like hungry. We need like a Reggie Evans, like a junkyard dog guys to go, especially if you're playing a lot of zone that just goes after
Marley Carroll, right?
Yeah, and goes for it. So again, like I said, it is our Achilles heel. It's been Achilles heel, so it has to improve, or it's just going to be where it is.
Tigers lose by a final of 78-70. They fall to 3-2 in league play as LSU wins again by a final of 78-70. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. And the Mizzou Central Postgame Show is brought to you by our home business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us since day one as a trusted partner. Business is not just about numbers, it's about relationships. And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home Bank, member FDIC. They're more than a bank. They are your business partner, and they do bring us the money moment of the game. Kareem, your thoughts on a money moment of the game as the Tigers fall 78-70 to LSU?
I mean, it's not one particular moment, but like I said, I was impressed with the second half, how Jaden, came out. And I'm happy seeing how his development until our second potent offensive threat is coming along. Like I said, I like what Trent is bringing to the table. Again, it's a process. We're 5 games into the season, so I'm liking kind of where we're headed. As these guys build more confidence and more stability within that lineup, I think we're going to be in a good place. But again, we do need things to focus on. Rebounding and free throws are probably our two key things that are hurting us the most. But again, that comes down to somebody being hungry for it. And that comes down to Ant Rob and Mark and those guys in the locker room really kind of buckling down and getting the guys more aggressive.
Yeah, I'd sit there and I'd look at a couple of moments, but I mean, they're down by 10 at half. They were down early in this game. At one point, with about 8 minutes to go, they pulled within 3 of this thing. And after T.O. Barrett makes a couple of free throws, and they come down and you need a defensive stop, and Rashad King knocks down a long 3-pointer that pulls within 6. I mean, things like that happened a lot down the stretch of this game, but that in particular, these moments where you get a stop, you could probably change the complexion of the game, and they never were able to sort of close that gap, generally speaking, with defense. And I think you and I agreed from pretty early on in the season that this team's defense is going to have to be the thing that drove it from an energy standpoint. And, they just didn't get stops when they needed to. I don't think that they played a terrible game defensively as a whole, but boy, in the certain moments when they needed to, it just felt like LSU got that offensive rebound. LSU made the shot. And it's one of those things that, again, it's just, if you want to win on the road in the SEC, you got to play. You don't have to play a perfect game, but boy, you got to play darn near a perfect game and capitalize on those opportunities. And they just did not today. That is the money moment of the game, and is brought to you by Home Bank, the team behind our bank at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Again, Mizzou loses by a final of 78-70 today at LSU. Let's talk a little bit about Mark Mitchell in this one. And this is another example of a guy, where you feel good about the consistency, only because he struggled for the first 30 minutes of this thing, and it was the foul trouble, and it was kind of tough. And then when the game was important, he kind of helped bring this team back. I mean, it is one of those deals that even when Mark Mitchell is struggling to kind of get into his rhythm, I mean, he is still a potent weapon. He's still an important piece. And I mean, I think I'm probably stating the obvious here, but this team doesn't go anywhere long-term without 20 from Mark Mitchell every night. And I think I heard a statistic near the end of the game that he's one of 3 players in all of college basketball who averaged 17, 5 boards and 3 assists. I mean, it just goes to show that this guy is not just, a good finisher. His game is extremely well-rounded.
Yeah. I mean, Mark is playing, he's obviously an all SEC player, first or second team, hopefully this year, what he's built on from last year. So we go as far as Mark goes. Initially, I thought that was going to be a problem if he was our only option. But like I said, we got the second guy and third guys that, could be scoring threats for us coming along. It's going to help his game. I've been impressed by, what he does. He's tough, gets to the free throw line, gets his teammates involved. So he's playing at a high level right now. And he would have been on his point guard. He would probably have 20 if he went in foul trouble today.
Absolutely. So. No doubt about that. Let's talk a little, my favorite talk, rotation talk. And, we go back and forth, and I understand that you can't play 6 guys an entire game. But I mean, when Nicholas Randle gets his 4 or 5 minutes, Sebastian Mack comes on, even though he hasn't played in 3 games. Yeah. My struggle with that, Kareem, and tell me why I'm wrong on this. These games, are going to come down to a couple of possessions. So when you put negative players, just guys who generally allow more points than they score on the floor, even for short periods, I guess it's one thing if you're getting killed or if you're winning big, but boy, close games and this sort of thing. And it feels like Dennis is trying to force a 10-man rotation. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I mean, I think we had 7 guys play more than 15 minutes a day, and Rob had 17,
which is terrible. He needs to have, he needs to be 30 plus every night. He had 17 tonight. That's a whole
he was rolling with T.O. and he's rolling with Stone. I mean, Stone played 36. So between those guys, I like having a 3-headed monster there, depending on how guys are playing. Look at and Rob, 1 for 4, 3 turnovers, so he wasn't playing particularly well. No. So I don't mind him. I don't mind Dennis not forcing the game with him, especially as well as Stone was playing. So, having Mac and Boateng come in for 6 minutes, I'm not too mad at that. Those are spells the guys need maybe a little quick break to get their win. But I think 7 or 8 guys, which he played tonight, more than 15, this is kind of where we need to be.
So tell me, who are the 7 or 8 you want to see every night? I mean, I just keep focusing on this only because I do feel like it's going to be hard for this team to get its rhythm until it really knows. I mean, I think if you watch the best teams in the country play, there isn't some sporadic random pattern of guys popping in and out of games. They do it a certain way.
Yeah, I think we got Ant Rob who's going to play 30. We got we got Stone going to play 30, 35, depending on how he is. TL spells those two. So between those three, those are pointing two. So our starters would be Rob, Stone, Cruz, Mark, and Phillips. Off the bench, T.O. and who else?
Pierce. You're missing Pierce.
So I'm missing Pierce. I wouldn't mind putting Pierce at the 4 and putting Mark at the 5 and bringing Sean off the bench.
You know, and you saw that down the stretch, and it was actually very funny. So Dennis calls his last timeout with, I think, 6 minutes left in the game, which was interesting because he wanted to make an offensive substitution. And I looked over at my son, and I was like, he needs to go with his offensive lineup here. And Sean Phillips is a decent offensive player, you know, but again, the free throw problem is a huge issue with him. So what do we look up and we see Stone, Ant in the backcourt, front court is Cruz, Pierce, and Mitchell. And I'm like, boom. It was great. And the very first possession, LSU walks right down the middle of the court and makes like a little bit floating layup. And I'm like, whoa, you know, this is the offensive lineup. But I mean, those guys are all, for the most part, decent defenders with the exception of Cruz, I think. But again, like, and to your point, I would rather almost see them go with that group a majority of the time. You know, Phillips maybe less minutes, Pierce more. And let's just see if we can gun people, man. Let's not do as much half court. Let's
score 80. We got to be 80-point game score. Having 4 round 1, let's Mark operate in the middle of the paint. Now you can spread the floor, and you got guys who are confident in shooting. So, and then defensively, we still should be able to play zone. I mean, that has been an advantage to us. But you know, sometimes you got to buckle down and guard guys.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, Samuel points out in the chat the bench needs to improve. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And the truth is that I think that Dennis did a nice job of assembling this roster, but you needed to see more out of Sebastian Mack this year, right? You know, and again, I think we're at a point where we can sort of accept that he is what he is. His inability to shoot's a problem. I mean, I love guys who attack the basket, but he's just not good enough at that to do it as often as he's trying to do, that sort of thing. And, you know, the Luke Northweather thing looks like it's sort of run its course. I mean, Trent Burns gets the call. But I mean, you know, for this team, it seems to me like maybe the move is to play the quote unquote small lineup, which is not small by any stretch. But I mean, you put 5 scorers out there, and I do think it changes the dynamic of this team. And I think that if Dennis focused on and Ant Robinson, Jaden Stone, Trent Pierce. You know, I guess if we put Ant at the 1, Jaden at the 2, you put Cruz at the 3, Mark at the 4, and Pierce at the 5. I don't know. I think you're getting to 80 pretty easily with that lineup.
Easy. Yeah. I mean, because we're going to struggle offensively in our second unit. So those guys need to play 30 to 35 each. And I think we've been in a good spot. So, yeah, I'm curious to see if Dennis kind of starts running that lineup a little more, especially as these guys are playing better and better. And he's clearly showing that, you know, Mac and all of those guys are not, you know, in a rotation anymore. So I think we need to lean heavily on these other guys, and that could be a dangerous lineup.
100%. And, you know, and I know it kind of goes against everything Dennis Gates believes as a coach. He does like to run, you know, a deep bench. And honestly, sometimes that works. It doesn't feel like with this group that those guys we're talking about, Boateng and you know, Mac and guys like that and Northweather have really earned the minutes. I mean, I wish if they were doing something extremely well. I get why he likes Boateng. I really do, because that guy is if you're going to play positionless basketball and you're going to switch, Honor Boateng is the guy you want. 6'5", he's built like a tank. I mean, like, he's one of those guys who physically can guard pretty much anybody. But gosh, he is just really, this is a guy who scored a ton of points in his prep career in Arkansas. And he seems to have struggled to find his offensive identity. And I know you probably played with guys who were, you know, legends in high school. And I get it. You go to the SEC, it's a different ball of wax. But if you're a guy like Honor Boateng, who was a top 50 recruit, scored a lot of points in his high school career, where do you think the disconnect has been with him offensively? Why has he struggled to really find that offensive game, or at least that confidence that made him one of the best players in the country his senior year?
See, I didn't know much about his game and his scoring prowess, because I don't see it. Because I was kind of wondering, like, I was expecting more from him, and I want to see more because he had, like you said, positionless basketball. He's the perfect size. He's 6'5", he's a big guy. When he attacks the rim, he has a certain skill set, but it's clearly that he doesn't have the confidence out there. And again, he doesn't need to be a 15-point scorer. If he can give us consistent offense it'll translate to the rest of his game. But, you can't be out there with those empty minutes. And so, like you said, he played 6 minutes and then it just kind of went away from him. But I was hoping to see more from them guys. We do need something from the bench. And if we do go to this new lineup, that's going to be where all our offensive firepower is. So I'm wondering what that second unit is going to look like.
Tigers lose by a final of 78-70 to LSU today. He is Mizzou Hall of Famer Kareem Rush. I'm Chris Pelican. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. And Kareem, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every playoff moment feel bigger. So at this point, Kareem, you and I need to talk about our NFL wagers for the weekend. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I have bet my house on the Bears at plus 4.5 tomorrow against the Rams. And that is basically just a spite bet all the way around. I still want the Rams to do poorly in everything they do. Anything that might bring Mizzou alum Stan Kroenke any joy is something that I rush towards. So, I'm going Bears in this one, plus 4.5 tomorrow. And I don't know, you got any wagers on today or tomorrow? Anything jumping out at you?
Yeah, I don't do much betting, but I have the opposite. I know St. Louis fans don't like Stan, but Josh.
That's your guy. I know.
So I hope the best for my boys.
You're taking Rams minus 4.5. All right. Well, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you can still get paid in cash. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or call ccbg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, call dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Tigers lose 78-70 to LSU. They fall to 3-2 in SEC play. This is the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central. He is Mizzou Hall of Famer Kareem Rush. I am Chris Pelican. Next up for the Tigers, a Tuesday night home matchup against Georgia. After that, their game next weekend is at home against OU. Georgia is a good team, no doubt about it. They're ranked 21st in the country, but that is a winnable game for this team. And I kind of feel like, this is just me personally. But I feel like for the Mizzou faithful to feel good about this group again, they got to get the next two, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, we're 11 on home, so we got to keep this streak going. And again, a top 25 team, a nice challenge, but we play well at home. I expect the guys to play better who didn't play well on this past game and, get a win.
Yeah, big game. And then the one after that against Oklahoma at home, and one that they will no question be favored in, pretty heavily, you'd have to think. So again, if you look at that and you sit there and you say, they get these next two, and again, a win over Georgia would be a good quad one win. No two ways about that. But they're 5-2 at the SEC at that point in time. And I think things change a little bit. Today Georgia loses to Ole Miss, right? Again, Ole Miss, one of these teams that you sit there and think is going to be one of the bottom feeders, but they win 97-95. I'm sorry, that was earlier in the week. They're playing Arkansas right now. Let me see, what is the score in that? Yeah, Georgia's up in this one on Arkansas by 10, and it goes to show you just how insane this conference is. Because I mean, honestly, a week ago, I'd sit there and say, like, clearly Arkansas is the best team, and then they get their doors knocked off. I don't know if there's a team in the SEC that sits there that we know is just going to be the best team. I mean, we've had that in years past with Tennessee or Auburn or that sort of thing. And everyone looks a little bit vulnerable at this point in time in the SEC, which in my mind, Kareem, you tell me, it should give Tiger fans a little bit more, there should be some element of faith, because I sit here and we've watched this team play for darn near 20 games at this point in time, and I have no idea how this season's going to finish.
I think we're on the right track. The SEC is a gauntlet as always, but there's a lot of parity, so there's not one standout team. And I think for the last 2 weeks, we've shown that at full strength, we're a completely different team. So I think, like I said, getting these next two at home, nobody would have thought the 7 games would be 5-2 if that happened. So I think the confidence, kind of continuously build from there. But again, it's going to be relying on guys playing better. We're going to need more from Ant and Rob, as we get into the heart of the season. But again, like I said, I'm happy where the guys are, and I think they said the next two are very important.
I think they're capable. That's the thing. Now, again, you see efforts like today and you go, ugh, it is just too inconsistent, right? You can't go the first 6 minutes without scoring a basket. You can't not get a rebound down the stretch. And so that's the only thing that worries me. I feel better now than I did certainly after Illinois and Kansas, because, they've got it in them to be a really decent team. And Trent Pierce and Jaden Stone, like I said, I didn't know their value when they were gone.
Yep.
And now you realize that these are the guys who probably are the differentiating between, a low to mid tier finish in the SEC and maybe something higher. I mean, and I'm looking at the schedule and I'm saying, I think maybe 11 wins you the SEC at this point in time. It just doesn't look like there's going to be any teams that just run this thing away. So I don't know, again, I'm probably a little more optimistic than I should be.
No, I'd like to hear that from you. I like to hear optimism.
I mean, and maybe it's just because I think we've seen a decent amount from these guys. And then the SEC looks like it's a very good league, but one that doesn't have maybe the star power that it's had in years past. So I don't know. I mean, it's if you want to be glass half full, and speaking of glasses, I've got my glass. It's not really. You don't have yours. I know. You're on location on site.
We have exciting news.
Oh boy. Well, hey, let me read this real quick. Okay. And then we'll get to your exciting news. All right. So folks, Mizzou Central Postgame Show is sponsored in part by University Spirits new Rivals Bourbon Collection featuring the black and gold. Taste the tradition in every sip from University Spirits, a company created by our very own Kareem Rush and his brother Brandon. This brand is not just a product, it's a celebration of legacy, culture, and the connections we share over a great drink. University Spirits is here to elevate every sip one story at a time. To pre-order, visit universityspirits.com. Even if you're not a bourbon drinker, support one of our favorite Tigers and grab a bottle to display at home. That is universityspirits.com for the new black and gold bourbon. University Spirits, taste the tradition in every sip. I'm going cheers. Tell me about this news, my friend.
Yeah. So complete rebrand. It goes from University Spirits to University Brands and Spirits. We have our relaunch date set for February. Brand new blends, brand new barrels, brand new bottles, and brand new teams. So very excited about it. It's been a lot of work. We got theme songs. We got a Spirit of the Game podcast with me and my brother. So we got a lot of fun things coming down the tunnel here, for the brand. So be on the lookout. Again, Uni Brands and Spirits relaunch here in February.
So the website now, universitybrandsandspirits.com.
Uni Brands and Spirits.
Uni Brands and Spirits.
Yeah,
I'm changing my copy as we speak.
So long. And I'm gonna get you more graphics so you can do a little more with it.
That's what you got to do. You get it to me and we read it, we show it. That's how this works. My friend, always a pleasure. Tigers lose 78-70 today. They're back at it on Tuesday against Georgia. Kareem, very much appreciated as always. And we'll be back on Tuesday. For Kareem, I'm Chris. This has been the Mizzou Central Postgame Show right here on STL Sports Central, and we will see you again on Tuesday.
MIZ.